Most people never truly fail because they lack intelligence or talent. They fail because they are addicted to being liked. Think about that for a moment and let it sink in. Being liked is comfortable. It feels safe and familiar. It feels like you are being socially intelligent. It feels mature and responsible. But being liked is not the same thing as being respected. If you confuse these two things, you are quietly handing over the control of your life to people who are more strategic than you. You end up letting others decide your value without even realizing it. Nice people have a habit of smoothing things over. They rush to fix any tension in the air. They explain themselves too much. They adjust their tone constantly so that nobody in the room feels uncomfortable. They apologize for things that never required an apology in the first place. Strategic people, on the other hand, do something completely different. They observe the tension without rushing to fix it. They allow silence to exist. They let discomfort sit in the room and do the work for them. And here is the part that nobody wants to admit about themselves. Most niceness is not actually a sign of virtue. It is fear disguised as morality. It is fear of disapproval. It is fear of conflict. It is fear of being misunderstood. It is fear of losing approval from others. You tell yourself that you are being the bigger person. You tell yourself you are being mature. But what if you are simply avoiding friction because it feels scary? Nice people avoid tension at all costs. Strategic people learn how to control tension. That is the real difference between them. If I watched you inside a room for just 10 minutes, I would not need to see your resume. I would not need to know your credentials or your achievements. I would just watch how quickly you adjust yourself to make others comfortable. I would watch how fast you try to fill silence with words. I would notice how often you soften your language to avoid sounding too strong. I would see how quickly you defend yourself when someone challenges you. And from watching only those small behaviors, I could measure your leverage in that room. I could measure how much power you actually hold. So here is the real question you need to ask yourself. Who truly benefits from your niceness? Do you benefit from it, or do the people who push you, test you, and quietly take advantage of your predictable behavior benefit from it? Because predictability offers comfort to other people. It makes them feel safe around you, but unpredictability, when used correctly, creates caution. And caution is what creates respect in the minds of others. When people are not completely sure how you will react, they start to measure their words around you. They start treating you more carefully. And careful treatment is the beginning of genuine respect. Now let me make something very clear before we go any further. This is not about becoming a cruel person. This is not about becoming aggressive or mean. This is not about turning into someone bitter or hostile toward the world. This is about behavioral calibration. It is about shifting your mindset from moral thinking to strategic thinking. You do not need to change your entire personality. You need to change your positioning in the minds of others. Niccolo Machiavelli understood something centuries ago that most people still resist today. Power does not respond to good intentions. Power responds to perception, access, and timing. If you can control perception, control access, and control timing, then you control the entire frame of any interaction. That is the foundation of influence. In this video, we are going to break down 7 powerful psychology shifts that will move you from being an approval seeker to becoming a position controller. These are not surface-level tips that you forget tomorrow. These are structural upgrades in how you move through the world, how you speak, how you respond to pressure, and how you design your reputation. These 7 upgrades will help you increase your leverage without using aggression. These 7 shifts will separate the agreeable person from the truly influential one. These 7 moves will turn nice into measured, intentional, and strategically dangerous. But before we go deeper into each shift, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments section right now. Write this down. I choose leverage. Let that be your starting point. The first shift you must make is to stop seeking psychological safety in every interaction. There is a silent addiction that most people never confront in themselves. It is not an addiction to pleasure. It is not an addiction to money. It is an addiction to psychological comfort. It is the deep need for conversations to stay smooth and easy. The need for every room you enter to feel relaxed. The need for every exchange to end without any tension or awkwardness. That instinct feels mature on the surface, but it quietly strips away your influence over time. When you prioritize comfort over your own positioning, you train yourself to shrink. You avoid making statements that might challenge someone. You soften truths that actually need clarity. You hesitate before expressing your boundaries because you fear creating friction. And every single time you do that, you reinforce a dangerous pattern inside yourself. You place emotional safety above strategic advantage. You choose feeling good in the moment over holding power in the long run. High-value individuals understand something different about discomfort. They know that discomfort is not a threat to be avoided. It is a tool to be used. Tension reveals hierarchy in any group. It reveals who has real confidence. It reveals who is willing to stand firm when pressure starts to rise. The moment an interaction becomes slightly uncomfortable, most people rush to relieve that discomfort. They laugh nervously. They clarify their words too much. They overcompensate by being extra friendly. They apologize for things that did not need an apology. They dilute their own stance just to make the air feel light again. And in doing all of that, they lower their own status without even realizing it. The person who remains steady during tension is the one who controls the temperature of the entire room. Think about that. When someone challenges you directly, what is your automatic instinct? Do you rush to defend yourself immediately? Do you start explaining your reasons before being asked? Do you try to smooth things over quickly? Or do you pause, hold eye contact, and let the silence stretch just long enough to make your presence truly felt? Psychological safety is often just a code word for avoiding risk. But leverage is built through controlled risk. When you allow a moment of friction to exist without scrambling to fix it, something important shifts in the dynamic. People begin to reassess you. They recalibrate their understanding of who you are. They start to measure their words more carefully around you. Not because you raised your voice or became hostile. Not because you threatened them in any way. But simply because you did not retreat. You did not run away from the tension. Power frequently sits on the other side of unease. You must retrain your nervous system to tolerate that edge. The slight tightening in the air when you speak directly. The pause after you disagree with someone. The stillness after you set a clear boundary. Those moments are not threats to your image. They are upgrades to your authority. Comfort-seeking behavior keeps you agreeable. Advantage-seeking behavior keeps you respected. This does not mean you should go around manufacturing conflict in your life. It means you should refuse to escape conflict prematurely. It means recognizing that your personal growth requires controlled exposure to tension. The moment you stop trying to make every environment feel pleasant for everyone, you begin to feel grounded inside yourself. And grounded people are difficult to move. They are difficult to manipulate. They are difficult to pressure into decisions they do not want to make. So ask yourself honestly right now, how many times have you avoided making a necessary statement just to keep the atmosphere light and easy? How many times have you laughed something off that actually deserved correction? How often have you chosen peace in the moment over positioning for the future? Each time you did that, you protected temporary harmony at the cost of long-term influence. From now on, you must operate differently. You do not chase comfort as your main goal. You evaluate outcomes instead. If allowing a moment of discomfort increases clarity in a situation, you allow it. If holding steady strengthens your position in someone's mind, you hold. This is not aggression. This is composure under pressure. When you stop needing every interaction to feel safe, you start becoming someone others approach with care. And careful treatment is the beginning of respect. The second major shift is learning to detach from immediate approval. There is a powerful force that quietly shapes human behavior more than logic ever will. It is not intelligence. It is not discipline. It is the craving for validation, the desire to be accepted right now in this moment. The need for nods and smiles and reassurance and agreement from others. That impulse feels completely human and natural. But when it controls you, it turns you into a puppet. Approval in the short term feels very rewarding. It releases tension in your body. It gives you a sense of belonging and connection. But dependence on approval makes you adjustable. And adjustable people are easy to position by others. When you need positive feedback immediately, your decisions become compromised. You soften your statements to avoid pushback. You tailor your opinions to match the room you are in. You hesitate to contradict someone who holds higher status than you. You calculate your words based on how they will be received, instead of whether they are aligned with your own objectives. Influence cannot grow inside the cage of constant validation seeking. Strategic individuals understand something crucial about respect. Respect is often delayed. Authority is rarely comfortable in the beginning. When you speak with real conviction, not everyone in the room will agree with you. When you enforce your standards, not everyone will applaud you. When you refuse to bend for instant harmony, some people will feel challenged by your presence. That is not loss, that is filtration. You are filtering out people who cannot handle your strength. The need for immediate approval creates predictability in your behavior. Others quickly learn how to manage you. They discover what earns your smile and what earns your silence. They figure out what makes you retreat and what makes you compromise. And once that pattern is recognized by them, your leverage decreases significantly. Detachment from instant validation changes your entire posture in the world. You stop scanning faces for reassurance after you speak. You stop adjusting your tone to chase approval from difficult people. You stop measuring your value by how fast people react to you. Instead, you begin to measure your value by your positioning. There is a powerful shift that happens when you accept being temporarily misunderstood. When you speak clearly and allow others to process without you rushing to repair your image. When you state your stance firmly and resist the urge to justify it excessively. When you prioritize long-term perception over momentary applause. That is true maturity. Long-term positioning requires tolerance for short-term friction. The person who can endure brief discomfort without scrambling to regain acceptance is the person who slowly gains authority over time. Ask yourself honestly, how often do you check the emotional temperature of the room before you speak? How often do you adjust your delivery to avoid disapproval? How often do you feel unsettled inside when someone disagrees with you openly? Every one of those reactions is a signal. It shows where your need for approval still holds power over you. Freedom begins when validation becomes optional for you. When you detach from the hunger for instant agreement, something shifts deep inside. You become more deliberate, more centered, more composed. You stop negotiating your standards for applause. You begin operating from alignment instead of reaction. And ironically, that is exactly when respect starts to grow around you. Because people trust those who do not constantly seek reassurance. They trust individuals who remain steady without fishing for affirmation. They respect those who can hold a position calmly, even if it creates silence in the room. You are not here to be universally approved by everyone. You are here to build leverage. I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments right now. I don't chase approval. Write it down. When validation no longer controls your behavior, your presence changes. And when your presence changes, the way people respond to you changes with it. The third shift is about moving from reaction to delay in your responses. Most people believe that quick responses signal intelligence and confidence and dominance. In reality, instant reactions often reveal impulsiveness and emotional wiring. When someone challenges you and you fire back immediately, you expose your triggers. When pressure rises and you respond without any pause, you surrender control of the tempo. Tempo is power in any interaction. The one who controls the timing controls the direction. Impulsive responses are predictable. They show your pressure points clearly. They show exactly where you can be influenced by others. If someone knows they can provoke an immediate reply from you, they know they can steer you in any direction they want. Delay disrupts that pattern completely. When you introduce a pause before responding, you create uncertainty in the other person's mind, and uncertainty shifts the psychological balance of power. The other person begins to wonder what you are thinking. They begin to reconsider their own position. They start to replay what they just said in their head. Silence becomes a mirror that forces them to face their own words. This is not passive behavior. This is controlled pacing. Think about the last time someone made a bold statement in your presence. Did you instantly correct them? Did you jump in to defend yourself immediately? Did you rush to prove something about yourself? That urgency may have felt powerful in the moment, but it likely reduced your leverage. Strategic delay does three things at the same time. First, it gives you space to properly assess the situation. You evaluate from above, instead of being inside it emotionally. You observe tone and intention and subtext. You choose a response based on the outcome you want, not based on your emotion in the moment. Second, it shifts psychological pressure outward onto the other person. When you do not immediately respond, the other person begins to fill the silence mentally. Doubt grows in their mind, curiosity grows, sometimes even insecurity grows. Third, it reinforces your composure in their eyes. Calm timing communicates internal stability. It signals that you are not easily moved or shaken by what they say. The majority of people operate on pure reflex. They answer texts instantly. They respond to criticism instantly. They defend themselves instantly. They make decisions instantly. And because they operate at that speed, they are easy to anticipate and easy to manipulate. Introduce delay into your responses, and you become harder to read. This does not mean ignoring everything that comes at you. It means choosing when to speak. It means resisting the urge to satisfy immediate tension. It means letting moments breathe naturally. Imagine someone questions your capability publicly in front of others. Instead of reacting emotionally, you pause. You look at them steadily. You allow a few seconds of silence to pass. Then you respond calmly and directly, without any emotional charge in your voice. That measured delivery carries more weight than any rapid comeback ever could. Control of timing equals control of the frame. When you decide when an interaction moves forward, you shape its entire structure. When you decide when to respond, you influence the momentum. When you refuse to be rushed, you reclaim your authority. Ask yourself right now, how often do you feel compelled to answer immediately? How often do you feel discomfort when silence stretches? How often do you allow urgency to dictate your behavior? That urgency is just a habit, and habits can be redesigned with practice. From now on, practice calculated pacing. Before responding, breathe first. Before replying, assess the situation. Before reacting, evaluate the outcome you want. Not every statement deserves instant attention from you. The more you slow down intentionally, the more deliberate you become, and deliberate individuals are difficult to manipulate. Drop this affirmation in the comments now. I control the tempo. Write it down. When you stop reacting instantly and start responding strategically, the entire dynamic shifts in your favor. And once you control timing, you are no longer playing defense. You are directing the rhythm of every interaction. The fourth shift requires you to redefine kindness as selective rather than automatic. Kindness has been romanticized into weakness by our culture. You have been told your whole life that generosity should be constant, that patience should be unlimited, that understanding should be automatic for everyone. And while compassion definitely has value, indiscriminate generosity destroys your authority over time. When you extend the same level of warmth to every single person regardless of their behavior toward you, you erase hierarchy. You remove consequence from their actions. You flatten your own standards. Strategic individuals understand something crucial about this dynamic. Generosity without discernment reduces your perceived worth in the eyes of others. If your time and energy and support are available to anyone at any moment for any reason, they lose scarcity. And scarcity is what gives value its weight. Think of it this way. If someone knows you will always be supportive and always forgiving, and always accommodating, no matter what they do. They stop treating your support as something earned. It becomes expected from you. And what becomes expected loses all impact over time. Selective generosity changes the entire dynamic. When your encouragement is intentional, it becomes meaningful to the receiver. When your patience is conditional, it becomes respected. When your support is reserved for those who align with your standards, it becomes powerful. This does not mean becoming cold and distant toward everyone. It means becoming calibrated in how you distribute your energy. You must evaluate where your energy actually goes. Who receives your time and attention? Who receives your focus and guidance? Who receives your empathy and understanding? And more importantly, why are you giving these things? If your kindness is automatic, it is not strategic. It is just habitual behavior. High-level operators distribute their support based on alignment and contribution from others. They reward effort when they see it. They acknowledge loyalty when it is shown. They amplify those who demonstrate discipline and integrity. But they do not pour their energy into individuals who repeatedly disregard boundaries or undermine standards. When generosity is selective, people become conscious of their behavior around you. They understand that your time is not an unlimited resource. They recognize that your approval is not guaranteed just because they exist. They realize that alignment with your standards actually earns them access, and that realization creates genuine respect. Unlimited kindness creates comfort for others. Selective kindness creates structure, and structure builds authority naturally. Consider how many times you have extended patience to someone who repeatedly crossed your lines. Consider how often you have offered support to someone who never reciprocated any effort. Consider how frequently you have tolerated behavior that diluted your own value simply because you did not want to appear harsh or difficult. That pattern conditions others to expect more from you than they deserve. Selective generosity corrects that imbalance. When someone demonstrates discipline, you reinforce it with your attention. When someone shows integrity, you acknowledge it with your support. When someone aligns with your principles, you invest in them deeply. But when someone disrespects your standards, you withdraw your energy calmly, without any drama or hostility. You simply reduce their access to you. This is not punishment. This is positioning. Your time is limited. Your attention is limited. Your resources are limited. You must treat them as assets, not as obligations. When people realize that your support must be earned, they approach you differently. They act differently around you. They speak differently to you because now there is real consequence in the dynamic. Drop this affirmation in the comments right now. My energy is earned. Say it clearly. When you redefine kindness as intentional rather than automatic, you stop being taken for granted by others. And the moment you stop being taken for granted, your presence gains real weight. The fifth shift is learning to withhold closure in certain situations. Most people are deeply uncomfortable with unfinished business. They need every conversation wrapped up neatly. They need every disagreement resolved immediately. They need every question answered fully. They need every silence filled with words. That instinct feels responsible and mature on the surface, but it actually creates vulnerability for you. The desire for closure exposes your neediness. When you rush to clarify everything, you signal that you require emotional resolution to feel okay. When you over-explain to eliminate any misunderstanding, you reveal your attachment to how you are perceived. When you chase finality in every exchange, you surrender your mystery. And mystery is leverage in human interaction. Not every statement requires elaboration from you. Not every challenge deserves a detailed breakdown. Not every raised eyebrow demands an explanation. Strategic people understand that withholding closure creates a powerful effect. It leaves the other person in a state of curiosity. It keeps them thinking about you after the interaction ends. It prevents them from closing the file on you in their mind. When you refuse to tie everything up in a neat bow, you maintain an edge. You remain slightly unknown, and people treat the unknown with more caution than they treat the completely understood. Think about the people who have the most influence in your own life. Do you completely understand them at all times? Do you know exactly how they will react in every situation? Probably not. And that uncertainty is part of why you respect them. You do not fully know their limits. You do not fully know what they will tolerate. So you measure your behavior around them more carefully. That is exactly the effect you want to create in others. When someone asks you a question that feels invasive, you do not have to answer it fully. You can pause and say something like, "That is an interesting question. Why do you ask?" And then let them speak. You have withheld closure. You have not satisfied their curiosity completely. You have turned the dynamic around. When someone accuses you of something, you do not have to defend yourself point by point. You can simply say, "I hear what you are saying," and then let silence do the work. You have not given them the emotional reaction they wanted. You have withheld closure. When someone pushes you for a decision before you are ready, you do not have to give them one. You can say, "I will let you know when I have made a decision," and then change the subject. You have withheld closure and maintained control of timing. This is not about being evasive or dishonest. It is about recognizing that not every question deserves an answer. Not every accusation deserves a defense. Not every situation deserves immediate resolution. Your willingness to sit in the unresolved signals that you are not desperate for harmony. It signals that you can tolerate discomfort longer than others, and that tolerance is a form of power. The need for closure is often driven by anxiety. You want to fix things so you can feel safe again, but by fixing everything immediately, you rob yourself of the advantage that comes from strategic ambiguity. People should not always know exactly where they stand with you, in every moment. Sometimes leaving them wondering just a little bit increases their respect for your boundaries. It makes them think twice before testing you again. Drop this affirmation in the comments now. I am comfortable with the unresolved. Say it to yourself. When you learn to withhold closure strategically, you stop being a problem solver for everyone else's comfort. You start being someone who cannot be easily figured out. And people who cannot be easily figured out are rarely taken advantage of. This is all for today. If this video shifted something inside you, hit the like button right now. Subscribe to the channel so you do not miss the next one. Share this video with someone in your life who needs to hear it. Someone who is too nice for their own good. Someone who keeps giving without receiving. Someone who needs to stop seeking approval and start commanding respect. Remember this above everything else. Stop acting nice just to survive in the world. Start playing smart so you can lead. The choice is yours every single day. Make it wisely.